start in Bellevue, Washington, working for a small company called Sucker Punch Productions. They are known for games such as Sly Cooper and the Infamous series. Very successful company. I got my start there. Worked there for 5.5 years as a character technical director. Then I moved over to Microsoft after that to work on Project Spark for a few years and helped launch that. And then recently I moved over to the Minecraft HoloLens team at Microsoft. So.
Thanks. I'm Devin Katz. I'm a senior at DigiPen Institute of Technology in the Bachelor of Arts in Game Design program. And I'll be finishing up there this summer.
I am Michael Van Zant. I am going into my junior year at DigiPen as a sophomore, or as a BA2D. I'm actually going to switch over to the new BAID program that they have there.
My name is Alexandra Lucas, and I am earning the BS in Computer Science and Game Design, and I'm a junior. I mostly worked on narrative design teams at DigiPen, as well as done a good amount of voice acting, so it's kind of a sector of game design that I'm interested in.
My name is Greg Waltz. Been at DigiPen for a couple of years, going into my junior year now. I'm in the RTIS program, the Real-Time Interaction Simulation, which is a very fancy way of saying game programming. And I also do game design, and I produced my last team for Angry Reckoning.
Do we have any questions from the audience?
I have a question.
What
inspired each of you guys to get into game design, or to get into the gaming world?
Well, that started at the age of 3 for me. That was my parents' parenting strategy. They kind of just sat me down in front of a TV and was like, "Play Zelda." And I was like, "Okay." No, but for me, actually, game design came a little bit later. Because I worked at Sucker Punch for 5.5 years as a tech artist. It's mostly a service-related industry, and it wasn't until I got my hands on Project Spark and something that was more an engine that you could create, and that I found that I had something to express to other people and something to say. And so that was kind of a launching point for me, coming to grips with the fact that being a game designer is about many different things, and it's not just about servicing the people, it's about expressing yourself. So that was kind of my experience with it.
Yeah, mine also started at a very young age. When I was really little, I told these guys a story the other day. Me and my family, we didn't really do gaming systems until we got home one day and found a Nintendo 64 on our porch. No idea who left it there. And to this day, I have no idea who left it there. But that kind of started this really long, winding path. And then in high school, I got really into computers. And I actually started at Japan in the RTIS program for programming. But while I was there, I found that while I could do programming, I was passing my classes and everything, my real passion was in creating that experience, like getting past that wall of code and then seeing what I could do with it to really have people get people to have fun with what I was working with. So I switched degrees and I've been doing that ever since.
Well, I started gaming when I was really little, so little I can't even remember. The thing that actually convinced me that I wanted to work in video games is basically I was working in retail after graduating. And I got tired of it, quit my job, started watching some streamers of games online, and they were playing Super Metroid. And they were just having a blast with it. It's a 20-year-old game at this point. And I kind of went, that's what I want to do. I want to make a game that 20 years from now, people are still having fun, still having the time of their life playing. And that's what my goal in life is now.
Oh gosh, I played a good amount of games growing up, but I was actually, a year before I started at DigiPen, I was in law school and very miserable. And a friend of mine, suggested I go to the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, and so I went. I had an amazing week going to fantastic talks about just all these interesting things people are doing. I learned about how powerful games can be. And I withdrew from law school the day I got back and applied to DigiPen. So I was just really impressed by the way that designers that I talked to and whose talks I went to were using games to inspire and actually create social change. So that's really how I got into game design. And I actually had a degree in English already, and so looking into narrative design, which is really focused on storytelling and character development, just was a really natural fit for me and something I'm very passionate about.
I've been a gamer for as long as I can remember in my life. Started from a very, very young age, like on the Atari that we borrowed from our cousins, the original Nintendo system that we borrowed from our neighbors and played, until one day our parents bought us, me and my brother, a Super Nintendo. And I'll never forget that day because I was actually playing pinball on the Atari that day, and my brother walks in the door with a huge smile on his face and a brand new Super Nintendo. The games that came with it were Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past and Super Mario World. We played them into the ground, and that started a lifelong love affair for video games. After high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life as a career or as a job, so I joined the military. I did that for 6 years, and about 3 years into it, I realized I did not want to do that anymore. So I had a long, hard look at what I really wanted to do for the rest of my life that would make me happy, something that I'd actually wake up every morning and say, yes, this is what I want to do with my life. I'm happy doing this. And the answer was video games. I couldn't think of anything else that would make me more happy than making video games for the rest of my life. And as soon as I left, the day I left the military, I applied to DigiPen, and I haven't looked back since.
I also have a story that kind of relates to you guys as well, about kind of like one impact. And for anyone who's out there right now thinking about getting into games or watching this in the future, sometimes it doesn't come right away. You kind of find that path along the way. And for me, I feel like I've always known that I wanted to make games, but the path wasn't always available to do that. And when I was going to school, I was just new media publishing, which is really just a fancy term for like the technology of the time and various aspects. And I did that for 2 years, realized I didn't want to do that. Most people that graduate from there ended up in their office printing presses, and for me, that's not a cool gig. And so then I applied to mechanical engineering and was an engineer for 2 years, got into the corporate engineering world, and discovered that wasn't awesome for me. And then after 4 years, I finally was like, I'm going to go into video games and decided to do it. So that's a really cool story.
More questions?
You brought up gaming for social good. I'm curious, for all of you, are you focused on like gaming for entertainment? Like I just want to bring those sort of moments of joy to people, or you have sort of other sort of goals for society out of gaming, sort of more social good, or even something else? I mean, what are your sort of goals for gaming beyond just entertainment, if any?
I can start, I guess, with that one. A really important thing that I want to use games to do is to communicate the full human experience, so not necessarily the happy, wonderful, positive ones, but to really help people understand the tougher things that people go through. For instance, just a side personal project I'm working on, I really want to help people understand what someone might be feeling if they receive a positive diagnosis for a disease. And it's not all about doom and gloom and shock value, but more just for people to understand the kind of the feelings people can go through. I mean, self-explanatory a little bit. So, yeah, for me, it's about communicating the full spectrum of the human experience, and I definitely think increasingly there's a market for that. And it's just really important for us as a developing society.
Great.
Yeah, that's kind of when you talk to a lot of students at DigiPen, and just kind of look at the market as a whole right now, you see a lot more of that coming out as games aren't just go collect the coins and have fun because you can have fun. I think they're really starting to develop into this whole new media tool in the same way that film isn't just let's go watch a movie because we can kill some time. You can actually really convey a message and really convey some real emotion through it. And people are starting to realize that games have that same capability. I'm really excited to see what comes of that in the next couple of years because there's already in the last 2 or 3 years it's just been huge strides forward in that area of things. And even in the ones that are just for fun, we've started to look more into um, what really triggers those emotions in people. And like I did I did an independent study this year on microdynamics in video games, and that little microsecond by microsecond interactions that the players don't even notice, and how those can stack on each other and really create a more whole experience. And it's kind of the difference between a good game and a great game when you can't really put your finger on like why I like this one better. Really delving into what a designer can do in those little instances between a couple of frames that make the difference. And so yeah, just that whole area is really interesting to me, and I'm really excited to kind of be a part of the industry at this time when that's really taking off and people are really exploring making video games.
Well, when it comes down to it, I kind of view game makers as entertainers primarily. Uh, there are games out there that have a deep, strong narrative that are great games that I actually love and enjoy playing. But then there's also games out there that uh, actually have just fun gameplay, and that's their focus entirely. One of my favorite games of all time is actually a game called Bulletstorm that actually has a deceptively deep storyline to it. But it's a game called Bulletstorm. It's a game about running around shooting, blowing things up, seeing how creative you can be when you're killing enemies. And they do that, like I said, they do that on top of a deep narrative. And so I strongly believe that there's plenty of room for both, and sometimes even within the same game. And I think that as the industry evolves, we're going to get used to having the mechanics match the narrative a little bit better than we have done in the past.
I guess I'll go next. The thing that excites me kind of about this topic of conversation is that I think more so than ever you're seeing games being made by people from all around the globe, and they're finding their way into the hands of people all around the globe. And so you're really getting a new perspective on kind of culture and what it means for people to be making games. I mean, here in the West, I think we're all from the US, right? We all grew up either with typically American-made games or Japanese-made games, and there's a very real distinction between those games. They're both great, but they have a very real flair to each of them. So I'm personally excited to see what people are going to be making in South Africa and Bosnia and other places around the world, and that will help kind of, once those styles come together, you're going to continue to see just new incredible experiences like we haven't seen before. Also to speak about this as well, one of my favorite games in the last few years is Journey, and that is a huge inspiration for me because, I think there's people out there who make games, and I love the idea about getting people to empathize with what it might be like to have AIDS, and that's a very specific experience, and I think those are awesome. But I love games that strive to build something that kind of all humans can relate to, and Journey kind of does that. It doesn't really use language really kind, and it's a really human experience. And so for me, that's what I'm super interested in. It's very difficult and very ideal, but it's a good goal forward.
And to piggyback off that, the greatest thing about video games is they can literally be anything you want them to be. They're art, they're entertainment, they're a form of expression, they're computer engineering and cinematography and audio design and game design all rolled into a package. And the possibilities are endless for it. And that's super exciting for somebody who's in that field to imagine anything that they can possibly imagine and put it in front of somebody and have them experience it with you. You mentioned Super Metroid, and I don't think there's a single person who didn't complete that game that didn't have an emotion when that game ended. When something basically sacrifices itself to save you as the player, you know it's not real, and you know this is just a story, and you're just controlling Samus, but it felt real. Like you felt those emotions. You felt anger, you felt sadness, you felt redemption when you killed the boss. And that's extremely powerful. Films touch on that, and they do that sometimes. And so can music. But games do it so much more affectionately, like it's intimate with the player, because you're doing it. Like you're the one controlling that experience. And so, I mean, if that doesn't get you excited about games, I don't know what will, because there's nothing I can offer
might be a stupid answer, but I kind of think it's going both directions, and I think that's really cool. I think where it has been going in the entertainment realm for so long, since kind of its advent, now it's starting to, with the same force, go the opposite direction, with the indie market getting as large as it is, and people being able to just make something without having to go find somebody to back them and having to pitch it, just like, no, I'm just going to make it in my basement and see what happens. I think that, yeah, it's going much stronger in that direction towards, emotional games that are telling a story. But I don't think it's in spite of or against any of the games that are just there for entertainment value. Because I think those have just as strong of an effect on people as the emotional ones do. There's nothing inherently less about a game that's just there to make people smile. I think that's a very worthy cause for a game designer to pick up, just to be there to make the world a little bit happier place. Yeah, I think that yes, to half of that, it's definitely going more in one direction, but I think that they both are kind of growing with each other.
My game that's upstairs right now has no emotional value to it for me. Giga Gravity Games is just an arena brawler. You're four robots inside of an entertainment arena and you blow each other up. And even though that's not an emotional journey, it doesn't have a lot of narrative to it. It's a four-player game. You're sitting it down with friends or family, and it's really fun. And when you get a game that's just fundamentally fun to play, that brings you joy, brings you happiness, it takes you out of your reality for a second, and you get to enjoy something else with your friends. And if a game does that, it's just as good as a game that gives you a full poetic experience. They're both equal because they're both great.
Yeah, to kind of relate to that, I have a lot of friends that play a game called EVE Online, and there's some story in there. But I don't play too much myself, and I'm really kind of regurgitating what they told me. But EVE Online has a very long history of players in the game, and the politics between players, the outcomes that have happened. Those are what's meaningful to people, not necessarily like what is happening in the game. So there's also there's many games where people play them and they create their own stories. I think that's just as meaningful as well. I also wanted to kind of add what you were saying is that I think there's always kind of this natural cycle as well to what sort of games are being built. If you take a look at the rise of iOS and Android, the vast majority of those games at the beginning were just simple, fun to play, pick up and play for 15-minute games. And I feel like over the last few years that has kind of evolved to more serious games because people are understanding the hardware better.
You mean like Candy Crush?
Candy Crush is still there, it's very popular.
XCOM just came to
Republic is a great example. I recently played a game called Device 6, which is very, you guys play Device 6? Yeah. Stellar game, I loved it. It's very much a transmedia style game, mixes literature and other elements. So I think, the same thing with the Oculus Rift. I feel like people are, just these first few years, people are going to be making prototypes, they're going to be making things just to understand how the technology works. And once that comes online, people have a better, greater desire to build games.
Now, down that path a little bit, I was just going to ask, like, we're at this point now where, for the first time, I think, since the 80s, really, we're seeing a huge change in interaction with games. Like, we're going away from, maybe not going away, but we're certainly adding to our repertoire touch that's present history. And now we're moving into things like Oculus, and I'm sure that eventually you're going to tie in some very human motions and interactions to those games. So how is that changing the way you guys think about games, if at all, and where do you see it going in the next couple of decades?
So I was actually about to address the earlier question. I think I can answer that one as well as that one in the same go. I personally also consider myself a narrative designer. I'm maybe not as proactive as Alexandra is, but narrative design is kind of where I see the future of the industry going, by and large, is where there's still a lot of room for development. And narrative design comes down to more than actually just simply telling the story. Narrative design is the world that you build around you. It is all the little objects. You can tell a story without even saying anything. So once you get into the realm of the Oculus Rift and stuff like that, and all the VR, the HoloLens, all those things, you can start to build where you can start to build a fully immersive world. I think it's interesting and kind of just have to see where the future goes, but it does present a lot of interesting opportunities for us as designers to get involved in.
Yeah, I kind of want to piggyback on that as well. Have any of you guys had a chance to try out the HoloLens yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Did you bring one with you?
What's that? Yeah, I brought three with me. So you can try it out there. No, I can't speak too much of it because it's all still very much behind closed doors. But there is this very interesting. I wouldn't call it a battle right now, but people are trying to decide whether VR or AR is the next big thing, and I don't think anyone really knows. But for me, I think that gamers are the people who love and breathe and spend time with games every day. There's a very niche group here that exists in the game scene. It's a small, tight-knit group. And we love what we do. But things like VR aren't necessarily accessible to a large market because it's hard to be somewhere else all the time, especially if you have families and you have to do other things in your day-to-day life. And so AR presents some interesting opportunities outside of gaming that I think are really fascinating. And I think once people kind of see kind of what that technology is all about, there's gonna be all sorts of brand new ideas about how people can interact with the world around them that isn't necessarily gamified, but will draw people in because it is kind of very fuzzy and intuitive.
I was just going to address the previous question and this one as well. I feel like we're seeing a lot of RPG hybrids lately. It kind of seems I might be biased because I'm a very big RPG fan, but for instance, the Borderlands series is a shooter RPG hybrid. So, and that series actually got me playing shooters when I was not really interested before. So that's a very cool thing that we're seeing. Also, Devin and I worked on a game that's upstairs called Relic. That's an action-adventure game, but there are definitely RPG elements. So we're even seeing it in our student projects too, which is very cool. And regarding the future, well, one application that I'm really excited about is allowing folks who are differently abled to experience things that they normally never would or believe that they never would. So I think AR developments are going to enable that, and that's just so exciting to me.
As far as the future of gaming, one of the most exciting things about gaming to me is that it evolves with technology, and technology is evolving very rapidly, and it's getting much, much, much better. And as it does, games will go along with it, because we're computer engineers. We program on the technology that's available. So whatever comes next, we're going to make a game for it. Whatever you can imagine next with the technology you see, we're going to make a game for it, because that's what people want, and that's what we want to do. Phones came out, and as soon as we realized they were a computer, we made games for them, and people played them. And as soon as we realized, oh hey, there's this cool 3D thing we can do, the Oculus Rift, we're like, all right, games, here you go. Our imagination will never be limited, ever, because we will always have technology to allow us to do literally anything we can think of, and that's really cool. So AR or VR or phones or outer space or whatever, we're going to be there making games for it, and it's going to be awesome.
So one of the things that we do here at STIC is primarily film until this year, where we brought on the transmedia element. And what I see, kind of what you guys are talking about is, sometimes there is an emotional hook in film, and there's an emotional hook in games as well. Do you guys see the two mediums melding, where you go to a theater and you actually interact with the piece of entertainment that you're working with, especially with AR or VR? I think is probably the
put on the VR headset and like step into Brad Pitt's character's role and just kind of either ride along and see what happens, or you get to make decisions as you move through that world, and all the extras have like little taglines that you can go up and interact with them, and that would be awesome. Yeah, it's definitely moving that way. I know in games in general, one big thing that's kind of hasn't really been executed yet. I don't think in a really nice way, but getting different kind of one gaming experience that covers different genres or different abilities. So like if you've got something like EVE Online, where if you want to go in there and you want to do all the spreadsheets and you want to run your own fleet, that's cool. But if your friend doesn't want to have that same experience but wants to play in that world with you, he can go play on the iPhone app, and he can go onto the equivalent of like Candy Crush and buy minerals for you, and all that goes back into your fleet. If somebody else doesn't like either of those two, there's this cool single-player, third-person shooter game where he's a member in your army. You go down on the onto the world and see what you can either explore, or shoot, whatever. That kind of transmedia within games is kind of starting to develop, and see where we can push with that. And I would love to kind of bridge that into other forms of media, where you play through the game and you unlock somebody's new single that they've released, and perfectly honest, I'm kind of coming up with design on the spot. But it's really fun to kind of think about how you can meld those together. Yeah, I definitely think that's going to be in the future of gaming, because like you said, we're constantly, as soon as a new piece of technology comes out, we want to see how we can make people have more fun with it. And I think that's definitely part of it. It's like, if I go to the movies, but I can also be playing a game, how would that work? I think people are definitely looking into that, and I'm really excited for it.
So I think there will be a bridge between the two, but I don't think that either one is going away entirely. I'm a huge film buff, and in addition to being a game designer, I spent back in the days when I had free time before going to DigiPen. If I wasn't playing video games, I'd be sitting around watching a movie or watching TV. As I said before, I'm a narrative designer. I'm really interested in story, and I'm interested in wherever I can get a good story. So I'll sit down, read a book, read a couple chapters, stop, watch a movie, stop, play video games. Just keep going between those on my days off. So I really don't think that there's ever going to be a situation where all films are interactive from here on out. I think there is something to be said about the passive nature of films, about sitting down and having a story told to you. That maybe I believe in the capacity for games to make experiences that resonate emotionally with you more than a film would generally be able to. But I do think that if we ever get to a point where there's loss of a purely passive film, that'll be a huge disappointment in my mind.
Your question reminded me of Twitch Plays Pokemon. So I think we're already seeing it now. Countless thousands of people all over the world all playing the game together, and countless other thousands who just want to watch to see what happens. I think we're seeing that happen more often with YouTube and Twitch in these, well, kind of celebrities almost appearing in these mediums. People love games. They love playing games, and they love to watch games. And the next logical step is that we all just start playing together. We're already interconnected with our phones. You can connect to anybody you want, talk to them, and play with them at any point in time that second. And that's only going to get more powerful and more integrated with people. And as that happens, you're going to start seeing more games be part of your life. People didn't like working out, so they made a game out of it. People didn't like, doing certain tasks like accounting. They made a game out of it. They made a game out of math. They made a game out of reading. Whatever it is, we're going to make a game out of it, and then we're going to play with other people. Movies, yeah, sure. I mean, why not? Why wouldn't we? I mean, you're starting to see Beyond Two Souls and Last of Us with movie quality graphics and entertainment, with face capture that Avatar used on actors. The next step is, well, why don't we all just play that game together? Well, why don't we vote on what the player does next? I mean, things like that are already starting to happen. People are starting to figure out how fun and powerful that is, and it's just going to continue to evolve from there. And that's pretty cool.
I was just going to suggest a couple games to take a look at if you're interested in sort of how that's starting to happen. Greg mentioned a couple of them, but some really good ones to look at that even as I was playing them, I felt like they were interactive movies. Heavy Rain, Wolf Among Us, The Walking Dead.
Anything Telltale's making.
Yeah, pretty much Telltale and Quantic Dream are really good studios to take a look at for that. And you get to play a certain protagonist or a couple of different ones and decide their personalities and their actions, but there is a narrative, a story behind it that's going to go a certain way. So there's still, the developers had agency there, but they give you a little bit of room to decide your own. So some good stuff to take a look at.
I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of an idea that I have that I think would be really cool. And I don't think it's too far away, actually, but it kind of melds two different things that I really like. I grew up reading a lot of choose your own adventure books, which I think are super rad, and people enjoy choice, and a lot of it came from that.
Are you familiar with Her, the gaming company Her that does all the Nancy Drew games?
I am familiar with it.
Yeah. Sorry.
I like that aspect of kind of early reading as a child. And then kind of more recently, I stumbled across this thing called Puzzle Break, which is where you go into a room with about 12 other people and you solve the puzzle together, and you have an hour to do so. And so I think it would be really neat to take something where maybe everyone has a headset on, or maybe it's AR, or whatever it might be, and you are playing with people around the world trying to problem solve together in an interactive environment that's unfolding in front of you, and whether that's puzzle-based or whether that's a film, you're choosing how that unfolds. I think that would be a really good experience for the individual and a good team-building exercise for people that are playing together. More questions?
So I have a question about the future of game design in general. So when I see games upstairs, they're all single player, two player, four player, and that's it. What's next? When's the next leap forward?
As far as like number of players or just design in general, or
So the design challenge in four players always concerned couches. So you're selling it to somebody that's going to sit on the couch and watch and play through that experience. So that experience only happens on a couch, and the couch happens in a couple of different places. What happens when you have more than a couple of couches? What happens, say you want to design a game for the IMAX. You have to have 200 people in the theater. When does that leap happen?
gotcha. That's a very good question, and I
Because
think
it's engulfed. It's a question that places right now are going out of business. Movie theaters in the United States are closing
yeah.
every week, whereas in China they're opening new theaters every week.
I don't necessarily have an answer for that. What I will say is that
The technology has been moving so quickly. We now have second screen capabilities where everybody has a smart device on them at all times. There's no cost to create these types of experiences now. It's just nobody's building them. The technology's there, just nobody's built them.
yeah, I think in that, I mean, anybody take over if you have a better answer, but I think part of that is that kind of endeavor is not necessarily something that one person can just be like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna make this whole new system for how movie theaters work and that experience. I think it's gonna take somebody with some backing and a company who wants to take that risk to really dive in and see what's possible with that. Because it's such a large project that I don't think it's gonna work the same way that innovation and design does normally, where I can just go put something together, whether it's on paper or whether it's on my computer, and just kind of see how it works. That's something that's going to take a lot more time and research, and probably a little bit more resources to really delve into.
Because as a nonprofit, we're completely like, if we wait for somebody with money to do it, it's just not going to get done.
It's a great idea, though. It's very
It's
routinely
just
great.
nobody's done it. The technology's here,
I
and
w-
it's been here for a long time now.
I argument that on a certain level it has been done, because what you're really talking about is it's a more localized form of an MMO, of say World of Warcraft, or of even some first-person shooters have 128 players against 128 players and stuff like that. So it's more a matter of someone with the creativity and with the ability, finding someone that has that a good enough mix that they could make a game that is meant for
Because
a
I see
single movie
games,
theater.
I'm just like, there's an arena, I have a giant screen, how many players can I have battling it out at once? That seems like a perfect game for inside the movie theater. Except only 4 people inside the movie theater can't keep the movie theater running. So there's like a design, like, there's a gap between what's here and what's needed.
Right, and there is a cross, because computing power, although it is really powerful, it is still limited. So they do have, you know, LAN parties have been a thing forever. At PAX every year they have a LAN party room where you have hundreds of computers all hooked up together, all people sitting in the same room playing the same game at the same time. An individual game that is able to hold, say, a movie theater full of people, is a really taxing experiment. And we are still at a point with video game technology that it is still being developed. Even though when you look at the PS4 and the Xbox One, you say, why don't we have those things? Having a single game that can look that good as, say, as the new Batman game coming out, the new Call of Duty, whatever, having a game that looks that good, that is playable by 500 people all at the same time, is still a really taxing proposition. So it really has to be a smaller level game, and it does kind of still require a lot of money, and it is a huge risk for a AAA studio to be taking. And AAA studios are not always known for being able to take risks. Yeah, so there's not, that's as best of an answer as I can give you.
It's a very complicated question. It's very difficult because to an extent we're already seeing that with things like YouTube and Twitch. Yeah, people want to sit in the theater and they want to watch a video game. They do. They just do it at home because it's cheap and it's easy and I already have the internet. So if you were to bring something like that into the theater, you would have to mix some level of interaction they can't get at home from watching the same game on YouTube or Twitch. So it's like, hey, you come to my theater, I'll give you a huge screen and surround sound, and I'll give you booze, and I'll give you whatever. You can hook up to the game with your phone, vote for something, or play along with little mini games that go along with the big game on the screen or something like that. You might bring some people in, but push comes to shove, people are gonna be like, I'll just sit on the couch and do that. I'll just watch Twitch because I'm already here, type of thing. And I don't want to pay $20 to go see something that I already paid internet for. So I think someday, yeah, that might be more accessible, might be easier to do. It could be something that happens before a film or something that happens after a film. Who knows? If somebody figures out how to make it work, bravo. I mean, that's awesome. I think that's super cool. But right now, people already have an avenue that's better, and they're just going to do that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. I mean, to take advantage of bringing 500 people together, you need a reason to do that, right? And for film, like you release films and you can't see it anywhere else. And that's changing to some degree now, but I think that's mainly the reason why people go to films because the industry has required it. For things like football games, Seahawks here in Seattle, people don't really go to theaters to watch it together, and the reason for that is that they can do it at their home. So I feel like you need to have a really solid reason to bring all those people together in order to take advantage of it. To piggyback earlier, there's other games that are social, that are incredibly social. That thousands of people are playing right here in Seattle on their phones, and they walk around. It's called Ingress. I don't know if you guys play Dispel. Very social game involving thousands, tens of thousands of people, and they all play separately because there's no reason for them to play in the same space. And so I think that's the
No,
problem.
and we recognize that, and this town's a perfect example of that. We have Cinerama, which is 2 in the world, 3 in the world. Like, it's dead, it's dying, it's only kept alive because of a billionaire.
The old
Yeah,
model.
The old model is dying, and you're absolutely right, and that's what we're looking at is being able to take that old model and evolve it into what people want right now. And I think that interactivity in terms of entertainment is exactly what people want right now.
Because we see like that dynamic ring technology taking over, yet there's no content, there's no software to drive the hardware. So there's a complete gap between the hardware developers and the software developers, and the people that could actually use it are sort of left between like, well, whenever you guys get your act together,
There's
let's
also
get it ready.
there's also I think kind of a separation between the kind of people who would do that on their own and having access to that hardware sometimes. Like I do think that would be a really cool design challenge. I have no idea where I would get the kind of stuff that I would need to tackle that on my own. And it's something that a nonprofit or a group is going to have to get together and really kind of explore. And that middleman that you're talking about, it's like whenever you guys are ready, I think it's going to be kind of up to them to go and find the people that want to work on it, find the people who can help execute it and put that together, because I don't think they're going to bump into each other on their own. So it's going to take somebody who really wants it to happen to find the people who are able to make it happen.
And in the independent filmmaking community, basically we use our creativity in lieu of resources, you know. And I feel like there's kind of a lack of that in the gaming community. You know, it's all about the money. It's all about like the tentpole games and the wealth of resources, as opposed to being far more creative with the very small resources that you have. So I guess I think kind of that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's an analogy between what has gone on in the film industry and what's clearly going on in the game industry. You guys are going through something the film industry has gone through many times before, and you know, lessons of the past, where we know like if we ask the question, if we wait for somebody else to do it, it's just not going to get done. And this is what happened in the mid-70s for the film industry. The studio system just crashed, and all the independents basically came in, showed how to make money, and took over the system. And it's kind of the same thing that we see, like there's an evolution that's clearly happening.
Some interesting models that come to mind actually as we're talking about this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Video Games Live.
Video Games Live.
I think that's what it's called, right? Is it? What is it?
Are you talking about the streaming service?
No, there's a concert every year where folks, there's an orchestra that plays video game music live.
I have heard.
Yeah. Which is really fun and interesting. It's like music I could listen to at home, but when you have, you know, a live orchestra there and there's like a show to it, someone played, you know, Guitar Hero on super mega difficult and, you know, beat it. It was really exciting for everyone to watch. So kind of stuff, there's that, and then also Rip Tracks, which they also stream in movie theaters. And again, I'm not going to see Night of the Living Dead in a theater, but if the guys from MST3K are making fun of it, yeah, I'll go see that. So something like that. And then also a really cool performance piece I saw once, which is something maybe to think about, is I don't know if you guys are familiar with the band artist Goldfrapp, but not Anna, but the other half of it, the composer for it wrote a score for a movie from the 1920s, I want to say, like a live, and then an orchestra played it live. And again, I don't know that I necessarily watched that movie on my own, but the fact that someone from Goldfrapp was making it brought me there. So something maybe like video game composers, big name ones that all of us are, you know, everyone in the industry is super psyched about. Doing something like that, that kind of connection could be really interesting.
That reminds me, there are film directors like Del Toro who have shifted his focus to not only films but games. Like he directed Last of Us, and he was known to direct Silent Hill. He looked at this medium and he was like, "Oh, that's cool. I've never seen a movie do that. I want to direct this. Like I understand this is an extremely powerful medium that has this interactivity kind of built into it, and I want to share these stories on this medium because I think that's extremely powerful." I think you'll start to see an evolution where, because games are so tied to video, hence the name video games, you'll kind of start to see this merger of the two, where it'll just blur the line. And maybe 100 years from now, people will be like, "Oh, people went to movie theaters? What's that? What's a movie? I know what a game is." Like, no type of thing. Where it's just like, oh, like, movies are games and games are movies now, because everything's interactive, and it's on my phone or in my head. probably where it's going, and it's probably at a state right now where theaters are having a real hard time figuring out what to do next. And game designers have never thought about going to theaters because we've always brought entertainment to the living room, not to a social setting. But eventually it's going to hit the point where, yeah, I think the two will merge and people, maybe not in the traditional form of buying a ticket and going to a theater and watching something on a screen. It might evolve into something new that we can't even imagine yet because it's a very complicated question. It's a good question, and I'm glad that you asked that because I'd like to go home and think about it for a while and come up with a way better answer than the stuff I'm bullshitting you now. But yeah, I think that's probably the best we're gonna be able to do.
So, Russ, I have a question for you. You work at Microsoft, and within that construct, I'm sure you had a little bit of a glimpse into the HoloGlass. And I know you can't really talk too much about the specifics, but in a broader sense, do you feel like the HoloLens is something that can create a narrative storytelling structure for the individual user? I know we're kind of going away from the multi-user, but for the individual that's actually wearing the lens, or maybe there's a connection between multiple users that are all experiencing either the same thing or different things that are interconnected.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely an opportunity for that. I mean, AR is, it can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be, right? A story could be you craft something for your child and you leave it on the counter in the morning and you program it to do something when your child wakes up, right? That's a story for them. And that's just a small piece of narrative, but like that's meaningful to someone else. And so I can see people crafting AR style entities that live in other people's world. I think one of the videos that you saw when they first announced it, someone had built a dog, and that dog can like live with you in your house, right? And that changes like how you live. And if that's not like the definition of like how narrative can affect you, then I'm not really sure what is. So it's incredibly powerful. It's an incredibly powerful direction for humans to be able to directly affect the story.
Just to keep talking about HoloLens a little bit, because I think a lot of the initial critiques are the photos that have all been memetized are the ones that are all wearing the headsets and they're waving their arms around and like it looks kind of silly, but more practically, you're not going to walk around town yet with something the size of the HoloLens headset. So for both something like Oculus VR and HoloLens AR, do we have to get the size down before mass adoption, or is there an evolution where it's still going to get mass adoption before it eventually becomes implants or whatever down the road?
And I do.
These will kind of be your wrap-up question because we have about 5 minutes.
Sure. I do think that it needs to be more integrated into our lifestyles as we kind of go about our days as human beings. You take a look at the Google Glass, and that has been mocked endlessly for the last 3 years because people think it looks goofy. So like I do think that there will be a bunch of early adopters for the Oculus. People who are mainly game driven, they have supported that movement. They will continue to do so. But they're a small group of people, really, in the large scheme of things. And to bring the masses into the medium the way that film, I believe people and how it affects people, I do think it's going to require the technology getting a lot smaller. And beyond that, like potentially even just being completely integrated with our biology. I think that it's one thing to put on a pair of glasses and see something in the world, but like if you have no physical response to it, then it's not as meaningful as it could be. And so I believe that these types of robotics and these machines will kind of slowly make their way into our person. And it's at that point where that starts to happen that people, while reluctant at first because that's a scary thing for them, that's when mass adoption comes in.
This is when the video games traffic should pick up.
I don't know if any of us know enough
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I am not an expert.
That's a great question. Now, is there any of the curriculum at DigiPen that starts to cover technologies like that?
Like we do have a game that came out this year on the Oculus Rift called I didn't work on it. Subject Redacted. There was one last year called OcuBlocks. There's no actual program at the moment, I believe, for this kind of emerging technologies, but they are very much open to if you come to a professor, it's like, hey, I really want to work with Oculus one thing about DigiPen is they're very open to you kind of pushing the boundaries, as long as since you're connected to a grade, you fully understand that they're going to give you a nut rope to hang yourself. So yeah, they're very open to letting people explore those mediums. And we still have an established program at the moment, but I've been speaking with Ben Ellinger, the head of the game department, and it's something that he would love to work on a little bit more in the future. I mean, no timeline whatsoever on what they're doing for it, but it's definitely something that he's interested in making kind of more a core part of the way that we go about our classes as it evolves more and becomes a bigger part of the industry.
I was just gonna briefly mention I worked on the narrative team and voice acting team for Oculus, you mentioned the Oculus game from last year, and it's definitely if you are able, I very much recommend trying to work with it because it presents a lot of really unique design challenges. I think we called it the sickness quotient, sickness factor. So we really, really had to work on um, helping players enjoy the experience without becoming ill, just because it's so different. We're not quite used to it yet. And even thinking about how it, believe it or not, just the kind of dialogue that people could handle and the tones and things, just based because they were contending with Oculus. So it's definitely something I really hope we incorporate a bit more because it's just you learn a lot from working with it.
So part of the trick with that is the Oculus going to take off, or is it going to just fizzle and die out? Because a few years ago, I was actually working at Best Buy when 3D TVs were the next big thing. When everyone's like, oh yeah, the 3D TVs are going to everybody's going to own one, everybody's going to rush out and buy one. They're still a thing. People still do the 3D TV thing. Nobody really cares. The biggest challenge with that actually in selling them was a lot of people thought that the 3D TVs would not do just normal 2D viewing. And that's the big question right now is none of the VR solutions have been publicly released. They're all just dev kits. And actually the Oculus Rift is the only one that has a real dev kit release that people can actually go and get. So I think that the school is kind of on edge and waiting to see what happens with that before formalizing the program as well.
We're working with someone to see if we can host the HoloLens meetup groups on our campus, so that might happen.
For the cameras, I don't think they can pick up Angela. She works for the school. She said we're going to be working more with HoloLens